أولاً thank you so much all of you. جزاكم الله خيراً. جمعة مباركة عليكم وإن شاء الله يتقبل منكم صلاتكم ودعاءكم دائماً في هذا اليوم الفضيل and every day. Like my brother said, my name is عفاف. I'm an attorney by profession, but I'm also the executive director for the New York chapter for CARE. I hope you all know what CARE is. We're your civil rights organization here in New York. We deal with all kinds of discrimination, whether it's a hate crime in the street, or you face discrimination at work, or your children are facing issues at school. I only have a very, very tight timeline. Inshallah, we'll do another more extensive workshop, but in the approximately 8 minutes that I have, I just want to highlight a problem that you should all be aware of as young people in school, but also as parents. Both you have rights as parents and your children have rights in school. And what I'll do is I'll highlight the problem and I'll try to give you some of the answers in that. So I got about 3 to 4 minutes for each. Number one, highlight the problem. A lot of our children face many, many issues, some of which you may be aware of and others you may not be aware of. You should all know that many of our daughters who wear hijab often face issues with people pulling on their hijabs and even administrators and teachers trying to showcase, their decision and trying to convince them not even to wear a hijab by saying things like, oh, your hair is so pretty, you don't need to wear a hijab, those types of issues. Nobody should be touching your daughter's hijab or speaking to her in that manner. Secondly, a lot of our young brothers in schools, and I know it depends on the age group, but secondly, a lot of our young brothers are bullied with taunts of terrorism. People are calling our young sons Osama bin Laden. They call them terrorists. They joke around with them and they say, when are you bringing a bomb to school? That is a very, very, very serious, non-joking matter because it ties very quickly with security issues. And why is that so important? Because when our youth respond, either by fighting, which then lands them in suspension hearings, or by joking back and saying, yeah, one day I'll get you, then security is alerted in schools. And in New York City Public Schools is connected to the NYPD, then NYPD gets involved, NYPD comes and questions your children, often without your permission or knowledge, and it's happened many times, and they'll also even go through your child's social media. And that is a huge problem because we all know as parents, I have children myself, as much as I regulate, any use of social media, it is very difficult for any parents to know everything that's ever passed through your child's social media screen, whether it's something that they've posted or something that's been sent to them, right? So that's also extremely problematic. The third thing that you need to know is that we do have, for example, non-sensitive lessons, and I'm couching these words in very broad terms. So for example, when teachers are talking about 9/11 or they're talking about international terrorism, there's often an inherent bias and concentration on Muslims, which depicts us in a demonizing or evil way. That is also something that is problematic because each of us has a responsibility to make sure that our children can identify very strongly in their beliefs and in Islam, whether they're in the masjid, on the street, or in school. And when they feel like they're being attacked, not just by their student peers, but by their teachers and administrators, it is an issue for all of us. This is just very briefly some of the issues that our children face, but I also want to let you know that they have rights. So, for example, can your children come to Salat al-Jum'ah? Yes, they can. They can be excused from school if they're younger. They need an adult to come with them, but even in high school, you just need to send a note into your school principal to allow them to do that. How about Ramadan? Can they, because they're fasting, can they be excused from certain physical exercises, boys or girls? Yes, they can. You should also be aware, as a mother myself of daughters, that if there's co-ed physical education in gym class that makes any of our either girls or brothers uncomfortable in what they're doing in front of people of the opposite gender, you have the right to go in and to speak to the physical ed teacher and ask for an alternative. You should understand that they are often given novels and literature that contains very bad language in it. I have studied in public schools. I know what we read. I guarantee you, if you ask your high schooler if they would be comfortable with you reading every book that they've been assigned, they would say no. I've asked the question many times. So please understand that while as parents you don't have the right to censor what books they read, You do have the right to speak up and ask the principal and the English teachers to make better decisions on what our kids are exposed to. Okay? You also have the right, for all you young people, you have the right to assemble and to have Muslim Students Associations so long as the school allows other organizations, right? And there's a difference between private school and public school legally. And in every single school, and I'm going to wrap this up because I understand Salah, of course, is first and foremost, and that is why you're here. There is a law called DASA, the Dignity for All Students Act. It's a state law. And in New York City, it's known as Respect for All. And in every school, there's one designated person which deals with bullying issues and issues of the kind that I have just brought up. And you need to understand who that person is in your school so that when your child is discriminated against or there's some sort of bias or stigma in their faith, you can go to that person and discuss it with them. It's either a teacher or a guidance counselor, right? So very briefly again, whether it's a bullying issue, whether there's bias in the teachings that they're giving our kids, whether there's an issue in the kind of material that your kids are being forced, like for example, health education class, right? They discuss many things that you may not approve of. You have the right to be excused from that class. Whether it's for Salah, whether it's for student organizations, whether as a young person you know that people are coming up to you and using, language that's racist, calling you a terrorist, or having to deal with issues of your hijab. Please do not hesitate to contact us. Like I said, we are an organization that serves the community for free, where attorneys will go into the schools. I've gone in and done educational workshops for both teachers and for students. Utilize us. That's why we're here. I apologize, I didn't bring the pamphlets themselves. I meant to, but in my rush I forgot, but I will deliver them to the masjid, inshallah. I will leave business cards behind. This is a small taste of what we would cover in a larger workshop. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call our office, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan, I appreciate your attention. And if you're ever dealing with any other issue in the street, at work, or immigration related to discriminatory work, please give us a call. Again, that is why we're here. Care, New York. We're right here in Astoria. Jazakumullah khairan.
Thank you very much, Sister Cafaf. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll give